Hello, comrades. Welcome back to Ushanka Show. Stories about life in Soviet Union. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. В эфире программа Ushanka Show. Истории про жизнь в СССР. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sergey, and back in 1971, I was born in USSR. So today, once again, I want to share some of my observations during the trip to Ukraine back in May-June of 2013. And if you watch my previous two videos about this trip, you should know that I spent most of my time in northern Ukraine, in a small village called Zhovit, where I helped my mother to buy a small house, and that's where I usually go and spend majority of time during my visits to Ukraine. One of my viewers had a question if I noticed any tensions or any signs of future trouble, because we're talking June of 2013, so in less than 6 months there'll be events of so-called Maidan uprising. So that's, I believe, started around November of 2013, then it went from bad to worse. A lot of people died in the capital of Ukraine, Kiev. Yanukovych ran away to Russia, and then went downhill from there. Russia occupied Crimea, and then they started hybrid war in the eastern Ukraine, but in the summer of 2013, I didn't notice anything. So once again, this is the house that I purchased for my mother for $2,000. It was built from the limestone brick. It's two large rooms, no running water, no plumbing, just electricity, pretty much the only conveniences, and two brick wood burning stoves. And this is the same house a couple of years later, so I paid for the windows to be replaced with new energy efficient plastic windows. Unfortunately, that cool looking traditional wood trim was gone. It was too rotten to be reinstalled. And also, as you see, the door is missing. That was door that was installed but never was used, and my mom didn't like to have it there in the front of the house. So she hired a local guy to install the brick, and then she got it covered with white paint, so now it's a new clean look. This house could also use a new roof. We have the heavy, they call it chiri pizza, so that's kind of like a cement tiles. But I was given a quote of $2,500 to replace just the roof part, which, you know, if you buy a house for $2,000, paying $2,500 for the new roof sounded ridiculous. I talked to my mom and she said, never mind, don't worry about it. As you see, the well is located outside, so on the street. So it's shared between three households: my mother, the neighbors that house right behind hers, and there was a lady across the street, but she passed away last year. I also paid to replace the gate and the entry door, so that's looking from inside to the outside of the mom's place. The old one was made of wood and it was in pretty bad shape, was really hard to operate. So we got this replaced, and you see those massive concrete poles. That's kind of like a standard thing. People were installing those, and then gates were made of wood. What do you think? You like life in the village? And this is our village postal office. It was probably built sometimes in 70s, maybe even earlier, because I remember that building in the late 70s and early 80s. And that brick little buildings behind it, I believe those are outhouses. If you read my book American Diaries 1995 or watch my old video about the Soviet bananas, going bananas after bananas in the USSR. And this is the place where I came with my friend to receive a parcel from Kiev. And my parents, it was our kind of family tradition, they would ship me a box of bananas, small box, of course, not those giant banana boxes you could see in the American supermarkets. And this is what that story began, about me carrying that box and sniffing bananas inside from the postal office all the way back to our house. But what caught my attention was the mailbox. So this is where you drop your letters, called in Russian почтовый ящик. And here it says poshta, which is Ukrainian word for post. Index, so that's the zip code 15213. And then says the letters are removed at 1300, so it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, military time, right? And then there's a little comment says except Wednesday, Monday, and Sunday. But this is so much we can talk about this mailbox right now, because this is pretty impressive. Okay, so what you're looking at here is original Soviet era mailbox. It says почта, which is post in Russian language, and you have Gerb Советского Союза, that's USSR, I think it's called coat of arms, world globe covered with hammer and sickle, star above it. So this is the original design of the Soviet mailbox. I looked it up, and apparently this style of the Soviet era mailbox was designed in 1965. So you have a little sign on the bottom, tells you what days and what time letters will be removed from the mailbox, and it's the bottom, kind of unlock the bottom and insert your bag to get the mail. And originally coat of arms was gold color, but looks like some people painted over it. Let's take a look at those two mailboxes next to each other. So what changed since Ukraine became independent? In reality, not that much. It's exactly same Soviet era mailbox that was designed and manufactured back in 60s. The only change, they pried out and threw away the coat of arms of Soviet Union. And in case of Ukraine, since we switched from Russian language to Ukrainian, we painted over, instead of почта, it became poshta. So they had to replace one letter in the middle. Instead of ch, they got sh. Otherwise, in essence, it's exactly the same thing. And I kind of see it as how much Ukraine changed since it became independent. A lot of changes are like purely cosmetical. There was no land reform done. Privatization went horribly wrong. Just several people got mega rich, and the rest of the population didn't get anything. So this is kind of almost like, okay, this is what happened when Ukraine became independent. It was painted slightly different color. Soviet symbols were removed. Russian language was replaced with Ukrainian language, but it's still exactly the same mailbox. To be fair, in Russia, things were done not much differently. Pretty much exactly the same thing. They just didn't have to change language, since they still retained Russian language. They just popped also the coat of arms of the Soviet Union and added, in one case, a sticker above it says Почта России, the postal service of Russia, instead of USSR, or added the letters России below word почта. But otherwise, they did exactly the same thing that the Ukrainians did. What's interesting, this is a Soviet era mailbox. So this is where you drop the mail. You open up and put the letter in there. I wonder if there's any letters still in there. Here used to be a symbol of Soviet Union, Gerb. That's the one with the sickles, and so that got popped out when Soviet Union disappeared. And here used to be Russian letters почта. So right here there's a letter ch, which they never bothered to replace the mailbox. They just painted in Ukrainian letters poshta. So it's spelled P-O-sh-T-A in Ukrainian and P-O-ch-T-A in Russian. And then they started adding, of course, when Ukraine became independent, our mail zip codes changed. It used to be different zip code, I don't remember now, but they changed to Ukrainian. See, they put the new symbol, says our post index, which is zip code 15213. And they then started changing when they remove mail. So originally it says letters would be removed at 1300 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they added later except Wednesday, Monday, Sunday, Friday, and another day was added on the race. So pretty much never. Post office doesn't work and no one removes the letters from this mailbox. Yeah, I was wondering how you remove the letters. This is a little side access door. You need to have the key and you open it. There's maybe still some letters in there. It definitely wasn't used for a while. There's no one walking towards this mailbox. Another interesting building in our village is this place. It definitely looks different comparing with those small houses of regular Soviet collective farm workers. So this building had quite an interesting history. It was built as a church. Then after revolution, I believe sometimes in the 1930s, when the Soviet government began active campaign of fighting religion, it was taken away from the church and converted to so-called Selsky Klub, village club. So there was a place to gather and also watch movies. So that was like a local movie theater. Well, some of you may recognize this cool looking dude. Yes, this is me, Comrade Sergey, back in 1989, I believe, posing right next to this building that at the time was Zhavitskoy Selsky Klub, so Zhoved, name of the village club, and it belonged to Ministry of the Culture of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. That's what the sign says. Of course, sign now is gone, and the said place was converted back to church around 2000, something like that. So not right away after 1991. There is a monument to the fallen Soviet soldiers that died fighting for this village. So Germans back in 1941 took the village without losing a single soldier, but then it was quite a fight when, I believe in 1943, the Red Army came back. So they buried, I don't know, close to 100 soldiers. Some had names, and quite a few of them were so-called unknown soldiers. For some reason they couldn't identify. I remember grandma saying that there were dead bodies spread all over the fields around the village. So villagers just dragged them into the Bratskaya Mogila brothers' grave and they just tossed them without actually checking papers because bodies already were smelling bad. It looks like they removed some kind of Soviet symbols in the front of this monument because there's a gray area where the rest is painted. I don't remember what was there, but I think it was like a Soviet banner, maybe other Soviet symbols. So those were removed, which I'm not a big fan of when people do that, but otherwise the monument's still there. So after serving as the village club and movie theater for about, close to 70 years, this building became a full-service church again. But it was open for a very short time. My mom actually told me quite an interesting story. So they sent a priest, they purchased a house in the village for the priest to live, and they just started, like normally churches operating. But pretty soon they figure out that the village is just too small and local people are just too poor to support a full-time priest, and even religion is the business. They can't lose money preaching to God, so they kind of cut down to maybe twice a week services, and then they completely shut down this church. So now it belongs to the Patriarchia, right? It's a Russian word, but there's no church service anymore, only on the most important holidays. And my mom kind of told me the story that people were bringing instead of money, they would bring eggs, bread, some other stuff that they had. And of course, it's all great, but priests needed money. And my mother, after she retired, she kind of became religious again for a while, but then she got really upset with the local priest because there was some holiday when you're supposed to pray for your relatives. So she came and she just put like 10 grivnas or something like that as a donation, and she bought a candle. You lit the candle, then the priest will, and she wrote on the paper that she wanted to pray for the health of her son in America. I don't know if she mentioned about America. Maybe that's why priest got upset that you give me so little money and you want me to pray. So priest took the money, but he never did the prayer for us, for relatives of my mom. And my mom got so upset that she's like, okay, I'm not going to that church ever again. And as I mentioned many times, this village unfortunately slowly dying out. I mean, this process started way back in late 70s, early 80s during the Soviet Union, because for many years, most of the youth left the village for the big city, just like my parents did. So of course, sooner or later, the villagers will start dying out, and there were not enough younger people to replace the losses. So you're looking towards the street, kind of pretty much stops right there. The rest, it's about close to 2 miles. There's abandoned homes. It's where my old home is, and they cut down the wires, and it's like, used to be you could drive your car, now you can barely ride the bicycle. It's just like a narrow path, but it used to be a busy street, and was, I think, like 20 homes down that way. By the way, I forgot to mention that this postal office was also closed down. It opens, I think, maybe once a week, just for people who need to receive money or do some other like pay bills. Otherwise, there is no more full-time postal lady that delivered newspapers and letters. They actually began delivering mail American style. So I have a car driving from the local town, and they just drive in every village and they drop the mail in your mailbox. And I believe it happens once a week, maybe twice a week. So this postal office is closed down too. Well, my friends, it's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this trip back into the Ukrainian countryside. And I would like to say thank you so much to my subscribers that decided to become members of the Ushanka Show: T. Suzuki, Christina Sieber, Aaron Tenenbaum, Michael Schick, Thomas Lon, Michael Biddy, Vladan Losevich, Pagnesia's Badger, Edison Bittercourt, and Office Farmer. Thank you so much for supporting my work. If you also want to support Ushanka Show through the membership, please click on the button Join under any of my videos and just follow the instructions. Thank you so much. Hey. Nice. No, Grandma gonna burn all the trash up first. Hey, by the way, a cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. Just a friendly reminder that my book American Diaries is available on amazon.com, or shoot me an email if you would like to have a signed copy. Thank you. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet